I'm Gabrielle Heyman. I'm run brand partnerships at Zynga, and I'm very excited to be here today with my esteemed panelists. So why don't we kick off by just quick introductions, and why don't we start with like who you are, where you work, and then also what's your favorite like ad-supported media consumption channel right now?
Okay, I'll start. I'm Heather Stuckey. I work at Mars Wrigley. I'm based out of the Newark office in North America. I actually flew in from Newark this morning on a United flight.
Thank you for your loyalty.
And I am the VP of Brands and Content. So basically what that means is I run all of I develop all of the content for all of our core brands. So that's everything from Snickers to M&Ms to Skittles, Twix, I'm sure all brands that you know and love. And my favorite ad-supported channel has to be Netflix right now. I mean, in this gorgeous space, and love all of the true crime documentaries, and heard about a Squid Games room coming to life. So, so anything Netflix is my favorite.
That's a good go-to.
Love that. I'm Athena Nestoras. I work at United Airlines, based here in Los Angeles, but I report into Chicago. I know that sounds a little funny, but our agencies are based here in LA, so I get to be closer to them. I oversee our US paid media strategy. So all of the work in any commercials, any ads that you see here in the United States, I helped place that. I make sure I find the right people for our right messages. The ad-supported network that I love the most right now, it's TikTok. Their algorithm is way too good right now. I'm just on it for hours.
Awesome. I think my favorite ad-supported, even though no one asked, is probably Instagram, because I'm on there a lot, and I honestly, most of my subscriptions are ad-free, so I don't see that many ads in the wild. So all right, well, let's get started. So we're talking about trends and predictions for 2025, and I am going to start with you, Heather. There's trends, but then there's also things that are like stalwarts that stay forever, and I think one of them is like kind of universal human truths that end up resonating in ad messages. So, like, where do you see things like, no matter what the trend is, that these universal truths are there and no matter what play a role in the ad campaigns?
It's a great question. So for us, we've been putting the consumer at the center of everything that we do for years. And a good example of that is our Snickers work that we launched over a decade ago, which was "You're not you when you're hungry," and it just tapped into this human truth of when you're hungry, you make mistakes, you're in out of sorts moments, and you're just not at your best. And that is just a perfect example of how we looked at something from like really put the consumer at the center of what is that cultural truth, what is that insight, and how do we bring that to life around the world. It's really, really hard to do, and it's something that it takes a lot of our brief writing process is incredibly we take a lot of time writing our briefs just to make sure that everything that we do evokes an emotion from the consumers that we're trying to target.
Is there like a manifestation of that, an example of how it shows up?
Of how
like in the Snickers, in the Snickers universe.
So because we're talking about sports, we have a partnership with the NFL. And so we have a ton of content that goes out around the NFL season. Right now, we are running an ad that is, it has the Kansas City Chiefs touchdown, like where on the field where the Chiefs team name is. And the person that was writing Chiefs wrote chefs and forgot the I because he was hungry. And so things like that of just like showing how people make mistakes when they're hungry and not thinking.
Yeah, and definitely food is a universal need. Do you have any examples like that? I feel like adventure and travel and excitement and like the curiosity, I guess, curiosity for things new. Like, how does that play a role?
Yeah, curiosity is definitely there. And I was going to say the human truth that we lean into a lot is the need for connection. Everyone has a need for connection. And so for me, especially on the paid media side, making sure all of the great content that our team is producing is seeing the right people. We can't put the same ad in every single ad slot. You're not going to see our same commercial, our NFL commercial, show up in Bravo. That's not the right place because they're not going to connect with that. It's not the same message. It's not the right place there.
That's a really great example because I watch Bravo. And I'm a little bit obsessed with it. So like authenticity then, that kind of you touched on. Let's go to you with that same theme on authenticity. Authenticity is so important. Zynga, my company, makes games where how brands show up in gaming is a big topic in terms of you have to be authentic to the gamer. And then also with like creator and influencer marketing, right? We can all tell when something's like fake, pushed, not natural. How do you, like on influencer strategy, how do you kind of trust, how do you know you can trust that vehicle, that human being to hit it?
That's a really great question. And so I'd like to start with our employees. Our employees are humans and they run our airline. And so any ad that you see put out from United Airlines always has an employee in there. They're not paid actors. It never is. Even in our TikToks and our organic social, they are employees. And that's very important to us at United Airlines because they are running our airline. We also see them as content creators. They have a vehicle themselves. They're actually traveling, and they are on our product. They're, having layovers all the time in these beautiful destinations, and we're leveraging that. In terms of influencer partnerships, I'd love to give a little shout out to Jasmine Brown. She's our influencer manager here. You can chat with her later. But in terms of partnerships and when we're looking to work with folks, we're very selective. We're not, doing large scale influencer campaigns or, working with everyone. You've got to fly us or live in a city where, is a hub for us, Chicago, Denver, Los Angeles. Otherwise, it's not authentic to us. And you don't really know about our product. So that's a lot of what, we take pride in all of our partnerships for influencers. Another good example of that is last week we just were on the New Heights podcast. Speaking of the Chiefs, we sponsor the Chiefs as well. And Travis flies us for work. So how authentic and how natural for him to even just speak about his experience flying us to away games and things like that.
It's really interesting to me too how like the research coming out of how different generations are influenced by ad messages and younger generations being more influenced by influencer messages than like TV, traditional TV advertising. How does that play a role into what you do? Like, I'm a little bit curious if you guys figure, okay, I'm going to reach Gen Z like this, and then I'm going to reach the millennials and Xers like that. Is there something there?
Yeah, no, it's a good question because because of the scale of all of our brands, and because of the way our brands were kind of evolved in the world of advertising, we were very focused on mass reach for a very, very long time. And so knowing that all of our ads had to reach a lot of people, but also knowing that we're moving into a world where there are different audiences that we need to reach, we've gotten very, very good at being much more targeted through our putting consumers again at the heart, and then looking at where do we deliver, kind of like what you were saying, is where do we deliver the right message at the right time with the right offer, and so at every relevant touch point. And so it's really for us just figuring out, like, if somebody's on Amazon and about to make a purchase, how do we make sure that we're driving that we're making that conversion really easy for them. And so when we think about just our overarching like modern marketing principles, it's making sure we have no dead ends. So making sure that regardless of where the consumer has entered into the consumer journey, we are able to fulfill that full funnel relationship with them. And then also driving co-creation. And one of the things from an influencer content creator perspective is we've been watching, there's so much content out there about how consumers eat our products. And so one of the cool things that we just launched a couple months ago was a brand new campaign for Starburst. And it's called Different Every Time. And it was born out of this realization that consumers on TikTok and Instagram were playing with the product, and they were doing it like they were making like fruit salads with our gummy products. And I'm sure you both have seen it. It's
Candy salad.
Yeah.
I made one.
And so we're like, well, why don't we, like, there has to be something that we can do with this in terms of making it like kind of playing the content that our creators are already developing on our behalf back to them to make it relevant to them.
You literally just like gave me the idea for my kid's next birthday party, like a candy salad. It was perfect instead of a fruit salad. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. So, Athena, like, how does that work for you in terms of media fragmentation? And you were saying like, well, we're going to run a different spot on NFL versus Bravo, but also like different generations, different audiences, different areas of media consumption. I'm also wondering, like, are reach plays dead a little bit, or is it like micro reach opportunity?
I don't think reach is dead, especially when you're working in brand marketing. It's still essential to everything that we do. But I think media is fragmenting. There's no lie about that. But your audiences are not. Your audiences are still there. Your end consumer is still there. They are not fragmented. So just like, you were saying, you're customer first, customer centric, you should also be audience first when you're media planning and thinking about these things. So where I think that just makes, our job more important as, media specialists, that we just need to find the places that they are and then, put those right messages for them there.
Okay, well, continuing on this trajectory, fragmentation, they're saying that, and what you said makes total sense, right? The audiences are there, and being really mindful about where and when and how you're reaching them. Attention plays a role in this too, and that's like an emerging metric, of course, in advertising measurement, I would say. Do you guys look at attention measurement in your ad effectiveness? And if so, are you seeing it play like a role in a specific area of the funnel, for example? How about you, Heather?
So we do look at attention really from a pre-testing perspective. We have a very sophisticated way of measuring our mainly video ads that can see the emotion of the person throughout the 6 seconds or 15 seconds or whatever it is, which then becomes a good predictor for how the ad will perform in market. And so that's that's our beginner way of like just looking at attention and emotion and knowing that we want to evoke something, some kind of joy, or we want to evoke a action from the consumer. So that is really important to us. And then once the ad has launched or is in market, then we would look at sales lift, ROI. So we don't really look at brand lift because brand lift is usually based on like what people say they're going to do versus what they actually do. And so
Qualitative versus quantitative.
Yeah.
What is your take on it?
So I'd say I've heard a couple of digital partners come to us this year saying, they're working on some solutions to actually transact on attention. We'll see if that comes to fruition and what those metrics actually end up being. But in terms of attention, what was I going to say? I forgot.
I mean, there's new measurement providers too, like Lumen or Adelaide, and I think that what I'm finding interesting about attention is like your video, for example, could really resonate and be like a really fun commercial, but in a living room, are they paying attention to that? In it, like what type of environment are you really capturing the attention? And I think from our perspective now, from a gaming perspective, because gaming, that's where it thrives, is it seems to really impact favorability and influence like trial of or just more of getting to know you with a brand. I don't know if that jiggers anything.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. So we do a lot of video at United Airlines. And so in terms of attention, like those metrics aren't, standardized quite yet in the industry. So a lot of the non-skippable video versus skippable video. So seeing how those videos perform, how long are people watching that? Do they care to watch more than, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds? And then seeing how that resonates and then learning from that. I think all of the insights that you gain from that to then do that into your next campaign is essential.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think in a way, like CPVC was like the first V1 of pricing for attention, but I'd be interested to see what those partners come up with too. So this is also about trends and like how do marketers effectively distinguish between transformative technology versus fads? And I go to Cannes Lion like most years, and there's a lot of fads that pass through, and then there's some mainstays. And like, what's noise versus a proper signal of like this is something that's a transformation? And obviously, maybe one of you guys is going to say AI, but even if you didn't say AI, what's a trend versus like versus a really transformative technology.
I think I spoke about it before, and I sound like a broken record, but authenticity is really a trend that I'm paying attention to, and showing up in those ways. I think we're going to continue to see that, and those are going to be the brands that continue to win with their consumers.
Yeah, I think from a technology perspective, it's really tough, right? Because you don't always know like what is going to stick. What we try to do is not follow the shiny object of the technology, but figure out how that technology, and it may not always work this way, but figure out how that technology enables our ability to tell our stories better. So, a panel isn't a panel without talking about AI, but if I think about like how we were, like the Starburst campaign that I was telling you about, we generated like over 300 pieces of content through using Gen AI and putting the talent that we shot in different situations, so that as they are enjoying the product while they're studying or while they're watching TV or whatever, it transports them into these multiverses. So I think that's a good example of using Gen AI to enable what we needed to how we needed to play the story out versus talking about it as like a Gen AI campaign.
Yeah, I feel like there's like underlying technologies that are clearly transforming or going to transform marketing. Obviously, AI is one. But on the other subject or spectrum of trends, let's say, like metaverse, for example, was a major trend, or blockchain, things that you don't really hear spoken about anymore. And then also on top of that, like the Dr. Squatch panel just before us, he was saying how like they experimented with Halo in gaming and it did fantastic, but they didn't do anything again for years until they went to experiment again with it and did Minecraft. And that always like befuddles me. Like if something does really well and it's a trend, like why not? Where does innovation leapfrog into must buy or part of the media strategy versus like tried it, did good, but you know what? There's this next new shiny object I'm going to try again. What do you think?
I think, all of us as marketers, we know that there's so much that goes on in the back end of that. What did it take to get to that launch, with Halo? And what was the bandwidth? There's a price tag to all of that too. How much was the manpower, the time, the energy, the sell-in, the buy-in that you had to get with leadership? And so the reality of actually pulling something like that off again is something that, you have to evaluate and see it was a huge success. But then when you think about all of that cost, it wasn't just the media cost and the production cost. There's so much more that goes into that. So that's a lot of what I think about for those.
Yeah, and just to build on that, so there's the internal resources like time and money, and then there's also the accessibility of whatever it is for our consumer, right? So when I think about metaverse as an example, like we had talked about it and kind of played around with some things, but then realized that it wasn't really, like not a lot of people were actually going to be able to access it. Like from a reach perspective, we weren't going to be able to reach as many people as we wanted. So that's also kind of one of our, criteria in terms of like, are we actually going to be able to reach the number of people we
I think that's so smart because some of the gaming, like the broad mainstream gaming community was when metaverse was so hot. It was like, you guys just skipped over gaming and went to metaverse, and like there's 7 people in that, whatever. Anyway, but it is interesting and still fascinating, of course. So moving on, and I'll give a couple more questions and then open it up also for the audience. People are always in the market to buy, right? Like I've got several flights already booked and gonna book more. And of course, snacks, like my kid is constantly asking me to go to Target and buy things that your company sells. So if people are always in the funnel, and you were saying like on Amazon, we want to make it easier for them to do and then there's the performance element of it. Where are you guys seeing like brand and performance melding? And that's obviously a big topic and a continuing topic. I think I'll go to you first on that.
Yeah, for us, we don't really see it as one or the other. Like there is that brand equity building piece, and then there is the performance of actually driving that conversion, but it can happen in like 30 seconds now. So, you're watching TV at night and then you're on this is me almost every night. I'm watching TV and then all of a sudden I'm buying something on TikTok that I didn't even know I needed like 30 seconds before. So for us, it's really about making sure that we have when I said the right product or the right engagement at the right time with the right offer, that's what I mean by offer, is just making sure that when a consumer is ready to purchase our product, that we're giving them the right offer to the right product to purchase. So on Amazon, if they're searching for movie night snacks, it would be a different search result that would come up in terms of like how our portfolio comes to life versus if you were trying to get Halloween candy or something. So it's really just trying to be. So I think from because the consumer journey is like spaghetti. So it's like you can't really separate out brand equity and performance.
What about, and you guys have such different products, even though one might eat your snacks while you're flying there. They're different price points. So does that impact it?
It does. There's definitely a different life cycle. A path to purchase, is much smaller for a candy bar versus a plane ticket that, is definitely much more expensive. And at United, it's really interesting. Our marketing teams, I actually sit on the brand advertising team, and there's a separate team for acquisition. So it's actually different. And I thought that was super interesting for sure when I first joined, because I definitely agree as marketers, it's a full funnel. It is one, path to purchase. And so we are incredibly close with that team, and we're actually sharing assets all the time with our influencer work. They're repurposing that, and making sure that they're retargeting based off the audiences, these huge audiences that we're building as a brand, with this huge reach that we were talking about. They're then using those again and using similar assets. Our brand is, funneling through all the way to that transaction.
Yeah, and I think just to build on that, I think a huge difference is that we don't have. I mean, we have some D2C, but not a lot. So we have M&Ms, and then we have Kind Bar. So it's not, or Kind Snacks, I should say. So it's harder to measure, and we have to go through our retailers to really figure out how that, like, to actually measure that performance, which we can, but it's not like an acquisition model.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, there's so much control in the consumers, like there used to be that you had to have a travel agent buy. Like now you can literally be tracking 5 airlines with their rates and did one go down, and then even same with you. Like I'm in Target all the time scanning to see if the price is cheaper or more expensive on Amazon. All right, my last question before I open it up really quickly is balancing cross-channel measurement. And that goes into a little bit about what I said before on like, are you reaching different generations with different tactics? Is TV still on top, I guess? Is sports still on top?
Are you looking at me?
I can go.
Oh, okay.
I am. Either of you.
I wouldn't say TV isn't on top, like linear TV isn't on top, but then you factor in FEP, which is a big part of TV, but it's just measured differently. So, I mean, 80% of our media spend is digital. So, so when we are looking at cross-channel, it is looking at that full, like, trying to figure out exactly how to reach, like looking at our audiences and then figuring out what content needs to be served to those audiences to resonate the most with them, because it is going to be different messaging for different cohorts. Like we don't separate them out by age. It's more by behavior. So it's not like you could be the same age in a completely different.
Well, I mean, that's a whole other subject we could go into is age versus like a psychographic. Do you know what I mean? But what about you?
Yeah, I would say similarly. It's not linear TV on top, but we see it as a video. It's a video channel. So where are people consuming? Because the media is fragmenting, but again, the consumers are not. The audience is not. So just making sure that you are tracking with those trends. That the trend to streaming, FEP. And that you're following those and where your audience is. And they're also usually on a second screen. Like you were saying, I'm going on Amazon and looking that up. I'm scrolling TikTok during the ad breaks. They might miss my ad, but then I catch them on TikTok or something like that.
Yes, exactly. So let's open it up. Does anyone here have any questions for our esteemed panelists?
Oh, wow. Lights are on.
We're going to sit here for 1 minute and 50 seconds of no. Okay. All right. Well, I think we're like pretty much that's a wrap. It's been so wonderful speaking with you. Thank you for sharing your insights. And we'll see everyone at drinks.
Thank you. We'll pass it to David.